Today, we shall be looking at Clampdown on the press, and someone will be doing justice to this very conversation. We have Dr. John, who will be joining us to discuss this. He is a media personality, a journalist, a media mogul that will be doing justice to this. Hello, John. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So let's talk about the clampdown of the press. Have you experienced a direct situation on the clampdown as a journalist?
Well, in my years of practice as a journalist, I have not experienced, so to say, a clampdown. I have experienced situations where I have been inhibited from doing my job, but in terms of a clampdown, no. But I have friends and colleagues who have experienced such situations, and the experience is not always very palatable, and it's not one that any journalist, whether be it print, broadcast, or even digital online, should experience.
All right, so let's look at some of the reasons why you think the government could actually be affecting the press freedom.
Well, now we have to draw the line with regards to this conversation. The government, by extension, the regulatory authority that regulates the media, be it broadcast media, online media, or social media, as we like to call it, has the responsibility to regulate the industry. And in doing that, sometimes it becomes necessary to met out what we would refer to as punitive punishment for flouting of the broadcast code, for instance, flouting the advertising practitioners code, for instance. So when these codes or laws that define our industry or determine how our industry, performs, then it becomes necessary that the regulators take action. And it's not just that they clamp down. There are protocols and procedures to follow before taking that. That is like almost a resort, last resort. After certain means of diplomacy have been tried and it has failed, then they will now take the final decision of clamping down. That is on one side. Then you have the other side where the government, because they feel the fourth estate of the realm, the media, is not reporting in their favor, is not massaging their ego, but rather placing them in a precarious position or situation, as the case may be. And because of that, they are getting bad publicity. They are getting negative reactions from the public. Rather than employ the tools of diplomacy and negotiation, as the case may be, because they are government, they decide to take actions that see them as clamping down. A good example was during the administration of late President Muhammadu Buhari, where we saw a number of media organizations sanctioned, and fined by the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC. We saw, even as we speak, I'm not sure the case with Arise TV has been sorted, but it's a matter that is ongoing. And these are as a result of the fact that these media establishments have either put forward publications, reportage that seem to put the government of the day in bad light. I mean, NSAS that has etched itself into the history books of Nigeria cannot be forgotten because it was driven mainly by the media, especially digital media. And we saw what happened. The media was not left out. I remember the coverage of the NSAS movement. I think News Central reporters had their drones seized. Some reporters were even arrested and harassed, beaten by security operatives. I mean, these are people who had press boldly written on their chest. Yet, the truth about it is that even in the 21st century, we are yet to fully recognize and give the media, the fourth estate of the realm, its rightful place. And that is why the government, any administration can wake up and feel that once the media is not reporting in their favor, they use the paraphernalia of state, the tools of government and governance to clamp down on the media.
All right, it's a good thing that you brought this up. We have similar situation happening at Mina, where the governor, threatened the shutdown of a station, the radio station, I think the Badagi radio station, and then this really made a lot of headlines where different stakeholders were complaining about the threats, that the government was having on this media platform. Now, the question now is, what can the press do, to manage interference from the government in cases like this against their freedom?
First of all, let me state it clearly. I'm sorry, I stand to be corrected, but I don't think the governor has the right or the power. I don't think there's any law backing the governor to have the ability to shut down. It is not his prerogative to shut down any media organization. That is solely the responsibility of either the NBC, NCC, or ARCON, those are the agencies who have the constitutional right to shut down any media house. So if the Governor Bako, had any issue with any particular media organization, the right thing for him to have done was to have written to the NBC, who are direct regulators to the radio station, informing them of whatever breaches that he feels they have breached, whatever reason he feels that is good enough for the NBC to take action against that radio station. It will now be the NBC that will now take responsibility to, one, investigate the governor's complaint, and if the radio station is found culpable, the NBC will mete out the right punishment according to the NBC code. Now, I know that the argument, if the governor's aide on communication or whatever listens to this conversation now, he or she will reply and say the governor, as the chief security officer of the state, has a right to. That is baradash. Where is the security breach? Did the radio station at any point in time incite the people against the governor? Or is it that the government gave its own interpretation to whatever reportage, whatever conversation? You understand? What were the steps the special advisor to the governor on communication or media, what step did they take to engage that media organization to highlight, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate that you're doing your job to inform, to entertain, and to educate the people of Niger State. But we feel that your current reportage on ABCD has put the current administration in bad light. Can you please substantiate where you got your facts from? That is how these things are handled. You must substantiate. Look, we must understand that the media is the only realm and organization in the world that has the power to presume and to preempt. Yes, we have, as the fourth estate of the realm, we have that responsibility to be able to lay the facts. In fact, the ethics and the principles of the profession states that we must first lay the facts, listen to both sides, and lay the facts as it is. without sugarcoating it, without altering it, lay the facts as it is, with a view to allowing the listening public, the viewing public, to come to their own conclusions. Of course, in recent times, we have seen situations where the media has been used to, in the name of agenda setting, to propagate certain ideologies. But if the rules are properly enforced, the proper protocols and procedures are followed, that will be brought to the barest minimum. Now, to your question, the government, what you must understand, if we must look at the current administration, right from the administration of late President Muhammadu Buhari, we must understand that the current administration was built on the machinery of propaganda. And at that time, any administration, any political ideology that is hinged on propaganda has one of its tripod as the media. Why? Because the media is the vehicle and the tool with which they must build trust with the public. The APC, at least in recent times, we have begun to see the truth that they misled the Nigerian populace in the build-up to the 2019 elections and also the 2023 elections by demonizing the then party in power, the people, PDP, and dehumanizing the person of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and not just his person, but even the office of the presidency. Now, what are the fallouts? Of course, one of the recent fallouts is the verdict given by a Canadian court suggesting that the PDP and the APC are terrorist organizations. And my big brother and learned colleague, Femi Falana, SAN, has come out to say, look, it's not enough to, throw tantrums at the position of the Canadian court. It is now left for you to prove to the contrary that you are not a terrorist organization. We know, it is on record, that the current the APC, was instrumental to the current state of security in the country. We have confessions. It's all over social media. Once you Google it, you will. Confession.
Sorry about that, but we'd like you to, make statements that has more fact. Talking about security, that's a strong statement. But then let's not deviate. We're still looking at how the question I asked you. You are about to respond to that question. I'm still waiting for it.
Yes, like I said, the government will continually clamp down on the media. Why? Until we understand the philosophy of the current administration, which is built on propaganda, we will continue to see that they will take a certain position against the media. In fact, as we speak, the media has been gagged. It's not until, in fact, they have systematically come out with a system that allows them to control the narrative of the media. In the last 2 to 3, if not 4 months, it has been seen both by the media and even the public. It's been analyzed where we have seen situations where the front pages of all the national dailies come out with the same page planning, same story, same angle, same everything. And I have come to the conclusion that the media today is run by a chief editor of chief editors. And what do I mean? You have an experienced journalist and media practitioner in the person of Bayo Nanuga, who is the presidential spokesperson. And this is a man that has had decades of experience within the media. And he has been able, and now I must give it to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for reshuffling his communications team and kitchen cabinet to bring in the likes of Bayo Nanuga, Bawa, and of recent, we've also seen that Sims Rimo Omokri has joined the fold. So all of this is because there is need to constantly keep the media on the straight and narrow. I ask this question all the time when I have conversations of such nature. When last have we seen any investigative piece on any of the sectors as it currently affects Nigeria and the Nigerian people. When last have we seen any? The best we have seen are those done by journalists like this young man who had to seek asylum in the US, and he's safely doing his journalism from the US. And then the young man who has done 2 investigative or 3 investigative pieces by going into the exposing the rot in the Nigerian prisons or now rechristened Nigerian Correctional Center. Beyond those, in the last 2 to 3 years, have we seen any investigative piece that has continued to expose the inner workings, exfoliating the inner workings of the current administration? No. The narrative has been controlled. It has been streamlined. In fact, the suggestion of even agenda setting is almost non-existent. It's almost non-existent. The only time the media begins to kick is when we have conversations like this. And why are we having conversations like this? Because of the situation in Niger State, because of the situation in Ebonyi State, where a station general manager was fired. Why? Because he did a commentary suggesting to the state governor
all right,
that
so,
there is a need.
Dr. John,
Yes.
Can we look at the consequences, the consequences of clampdowns on the press, what it has on the society and, of course, governance?
The consequences is that the generality of the polity will be highly misinformed. Like I've told you, I mentioned the fact that right now the media has a chief editor of chief editors who determines what as you and I are speaking, I can tell you that already the front pages of all our national dailies has already been planned, what the communications will be, especially as it relates to the presidency, the government, and the APC has already been streamlined, especially after the fallout of the by-elections, where the APC cleared 12 states, and yet they are still kicking because certain states did not fall under their grasp, you understand? So those narratives are already, as we speak, they're already fine-tuned. Don't forget, Mr. President is in Japan. So right now, his media machinery is seriously watching for whatever questions, whatever reactions come from the media, and almost instantaneously, they will react. They will react. So those are the consequences. The public will be highly misinformed. A large percent of the populace will be in the dark, because all they probably will get will be trickles of information, not enough for them to be able to piece together that information to have a clearer picture or the bigger picture, right? I mean, for instance, we've been told that the economy is picking up, that the economic reforms as instituted by the Bola Tinubu-led APC administration is yielding results. But the big question, everybody, for instance, the subject of subsidy removal, everybody is still asking, where is the money? Where is the money going? Now the presidency has told us, talk to the governors, ask them. They are collecting more money than they have ever collected in terms of allocation. So those are the things. So the media has the responsibility to resist in a case where it is being denied access. For God's sake, in Nigeria, we have the FOI bill and the FOI Act, which empowers the media to ask questions and seek relevant. Yes, the system may frustrate you in getting the information you need, but let it be seen that there are attempts to bring out the true facts as they are, and so that the Nigerian populace can digest those facts and be properly informed, oriented, and given direction as to how to approach issues of national interest, issues of economic interest, and understand the political game a bit better than they do, rather than relying on sentiments and the current narrative that we have. So generally, the biggest disadvantage is the fact that the people will be in the dark. We will continue to have what I will call a media illiterate society. Even for media practitioners, there is need for them to also upgrade themselves and become media literate. You understand? The approach we used in the 2023 elections, for instance, to cover the election may not work, in 2027. And the only way you can understand that is when you recognize the shifts that are occurring between now and 2027 and the need to be able to put yourself in a position to give creditable reportage, reliable information that can be fact-checked and seen to be correct. So
Thank,
generally, that is the biggest disadvantage.
all right. Thank you, Dr. John. Let's now look at the economic pressure, that may actually influence these press clampdowns and also the implications, of course, the society.
Well, first of all, when you clamp down a media organization, don't forget, in as much as we like the doctors and the lawyers, even though we don't have an oath that we take, but we have a responsibility to. So when a media organization is clamped down, you must recognize that beyond doing our jobs as journalists, the organization itself is a business. So at that time, money is lost. Um, the people working in that media organization may not be paid during the period of the clampdown because the owners of the organization will simply say, look, no money has been made. We, instead of making money, we've lost money, blah 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 blah. So, and if not careful, that organization could, just die a natural death, slip into oblivion. We've seen it happen. I think Cosmo FM is one that readily comes to mind. We've seen a lot of, over the years, media organizations that, because of such clampdowns, have basically ceased to exist. So what that does, it waters down, because now other media organizations become afraid. They become cautious. You understand? Rather than follow the ethics of the profession, they are now guided by fear. Oh, we don't want to be clamped down. See what has happened in Mina, and we have to be very careful. So even when they have a story that naturally should get to the public, they will kill it for fear. So those are part of the consequences. Once a media organization is clamped down, automatically business comes to a halt. It comes to a halt because it's either they clamp you down to a point where you can't transmit, so your transmitter is down, your transmission is off, and all of that. Except if you are able to do some skeletal whatever to keep your brand relevant. But even at that, they will do everything necessary to ensure that they come down on you with their full weight. So economically, it is not a good place to be honest with you, when your media organization is clamped down, and then it's a very severe punishment because you lose money, you lose credibility, you lose patronage, you lose you lose your viewership, you lose your listenership, you lose your followership, and those are the tools that in today's media market you need to be able to keep your brand afloat and continue to be able to pull the necessary sponsorship, endorsement, and financial support that you need to keep your media brand alive. So it's a media clampdown, definitely economically is not. It's a weapon, a devastating weapon.
All right, thank you, Doctor. But then again, how can citizens, support freedom press, and also hold the government accountable?
Well, the citizens can only advocate. Fortunately, there are civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations who have taken up the responsibility to continue to defend situations of media clampdown, especially in Nigeria. So for the citizens, the best they can do is like I said, advocate and then, do petitions. We saw it happen. I think it was Dark Communications, owners of AIT and Ray Power at some point in time. I think we also saw it happen for, if I remember correctly, um, even channels at some point, where the public, there was public petition to the government, pleading with the government not to, come down hard on those media organizations at that time. And so that is one thing that the public can do. And part of advocacy is also empowering legal support for those organizations to be able to, get legal representation and ensure that their rights are not infringed upon, because the 1999 Constitution, as amended, guarantees freedom of right, freedom of expression, freedom of communication. And then when these rights are infringed upon, especially in the case of the media, it becomes a legal matter. So in Nigeria, we are fortunate. We've seen in recent times, the infractions in the aviation industry. We saw the NBA, we saw a host of civil society and NGOs, come up. And I must say, over the years, I must express my gratitude and thanks to the civil societies and NGOs who have continued to fight for not just the average Nigerian, but even for the media. In recent times, we have seen the Amnesty International also take up issues relating to gagging of the media, clamp down on the press, and of course, what we've seen has been disputes, the government disputing those claims, trying to debunk those reports and narratives. So I think the biggest thing the media and the Nigerian populace can do is, especially now that I think, if I'm correct, the review of the 1999 Constitution is still ongoing. So the public at the various public town hall hearings and public hearings for the review of the Constitution should be able to include the need to currently review laws and policies as it relates to media rights, media protection, press freedom, and a host of other issues as it relates to the media and the government.
All right. Now you've made mention of the public, also putting their voice in the review of the Constitution. Let's also talk about journalists. Do you think journalists are doing enough? Like, now that we still have the Constitution under review, are we expected to come out in our numbers, to also put our voice in, for press freedom and what have you? But so far, do you really think Nigerian journalists, are doing enough to, bring us review some of these constitutions that could also favor this part of the industry?
I'm sorry to disappoint you. We have not done enough. At the point where it was suggested that there was going to be a review of the 1999 Constitution, what I expected was the various media houses, especially those who are core news-based platforms, to begin to dissect the issues with the 1999 Constitution, to begin to dissect the issues in terms of review, because there are various schools of thought. There are schools of thought that say that it is a waste of time, resources, and manpower reviewing the current 1999 Constitution as amended, when there was a confab that came out with a conclusive document that can be adopted. You understand? That is one school of thought. One other school of thought is that, okay, that the 1999 Constitution should be done away with. Why? Because the argument has always been on the table that it was not produced by the Nigerian people, even though it starts with "we the people." But that document, that Constitution, was drafted by the military, and that continues to be a major argument. You understand? So if the media had done its work appropriately, the public would have been properly educated, highly informed about various aspects, given the history, You understand? Sadly, I must say this: we are poor students of history. We forget very easily, and these are the things that the media is responsible for, to remind the people and the public of the historical evolution of that document to where it is today, and why the review should either be supported, or they need to visit the various schools of thought. But that hasn't happened. Okay, let me even ask you, since the review of the 1999 Constitution started, how many platforms have you seen discuss the various public hearings and town hall meetings? The only thing you see are reports that come up once in a while. And I mean, I've been in the media for almost 30, if not, yeah, over 20 years or more. You understand? And I can see a report, and I know that the only reason why this report has been published is because the party involved has funded it or has sponsored for that report to see the light of day. Other than that, we have not seen anything. Yes, I think it was even only in this when the Southeast hearing took place that we saw a few things, and that is because of the vociferousness of the Southeast. You understand? The Southeast has been politically marginalized over time, and so every opportunity they get, they try to peel it to the get to the core of it. And maybe that was why we were able to see some discussions from and positions from the Southeast. Other than that, South, nothing. North, whether North Central, Northeast, Northwest, we didn't see anything. So this alone shows that the media has failed tremendously in its duty to put Nigerians at the forefront of conversations, especially conversations and issues that relate to the Nigerian polity. So that I said it before. I said, when last did we see any investigative piece? None. When have we seen a documentary addressing the review of the 1999 Constitution as ongoing? Where have we seen conversations critically looking at aspects and fallouts of the various public hearings? None. None. Even the National Assembly, I can tell you, there are so many bills that have been passed that apart from the day you are able to watch maybe the live plenary or reports from those covering the national, once those reports go, that's the end. Nobody follows up to know how those bills have been implemented, how they've transited. And that's why we have poor implementation of policies, laws across the country, because the media is saddled with the responsibility of following up on these things, keeping the public abreast, and reminding the various stakeholders, the key players in those sectors, to say, look, the policy said A, B, C, D. You have not even implemented A, and you gave this timeline and deadline for that policy, for phase one of that policy to be implemented. And that's why we are having policy somersaults all across the place, because the media, who naturally is saddled with the responsibility of keeping the public abreast and updating the public, educating the public on the need, on how the public should engage in ensuring that those policies evolve to the betterment of the Nigerian people. I mean, the media is not doing it. But let me also say this. Some will argue, especially my colleagues in the media will argue, that in a situation where the media has been so impoverished, as we have seen in the case of Nigeria, it becomes difficult to be able to do some of. I remember having a conversation with fellow colleagues and students at a point in time, and they kept pointing out the fact that if a BBC, for instance, is going to do any investigative piece in Nigeria, there's a budget, there's money allotted. They have one or two agencies or non-governmental organizations, foundations supporting in ensuring that the truth about that subject is clearly exposed and made public. But in Nigeria, a lot of media organizations can barely survive. I mean, we know the price of diesel, we know the price of petrol. I mean, the current exchange rate, I mean, there is nothing the media uses that is produced in Nigeria. Our equipment, even if it is a microphone or the cord that the micro is all produced abroad, and you buy in hard currency. The media has never enjoyed tax holiday. Media organizations like that, I mean, I stand to be corrected. I don't know if any media organization has enjoyed tax holiday or tax rebates for the kind of equipment that we bring in, especially the big ones. You know, I don't know if any of the media organizations have enjoyed support from maybe the Bank of Industry or the Bank of Business, as the case may be, in a bid to push the media industry. As I said, it's a business, in as much as it is also a responsibility, but more than not, it is a business. There is we call it show business. There is the show aspect and there is the business aspect. So while the government may choose to clamp down on the show aspect, they also must think about the consequences and the
Okay.
aftermath on the business.
Dr. John, let's
Yes.
look at social media. You know, in this age and time, social media is another part of the media now. What influence does, or shall I say, how does social media influence the relationship between, the press and, of course, governance?
Well, the social media as it stands right now is still in its not infancy, but in its toddlerly stage. What do I mean? Unlike other parts of the world where social media has now become the mainstay of mainstream media, in Nigeria, we are still yet to get there. Do you understand? And because of that, as we speak, there are no clear set regulations for social media, even across the world. America is evolving in terms of its regulatory functions and laws as it relates to social media. And that's why you're always hearing that the Senate hearing will invite Mark Zuckerberg, will invite Elon Musk and the rest of them. Why? Because they are trying to understand the evolution. The digital media space, and social media particularly, is consistently shifting, meaning the dynamics changes at a rapid speed. So you may enact a regulation or a law today that may, by tomorrow, something has happened in the digital space that makes that law obsolete in just barely 24 hours or barely 1 month. And so you need a regulatory agency that understands the shifting nature of the digital space and online media. So in terms of managing the relationship, there are tools, and technology has made it easy for us to be able to manage those relationships. That's where going in my advocacy to media practitioners, especially those of us who transit between traditional media, print media, and the digital online media, you have to acquire certain skills that will help to smoothing the relationship between the media and the government. And what are those tools and skills you need to acquire? Critical thinking. Now, before you carry any story, you must now fall back to your ethical journalistic, and you must fall back to the ethics of journalism, which is it true? Have you listened to both sides? Do you have your facts correct? You understand, before you put it out there. But unfortunately, because of the digital technology, as you and I speak, in a country of well over 250 million people, you must come to accept that about 200 million or more of those people are now radio stations, they are now TV stations. Because, I mean, if, for example, an accident happens somewhere in Enugu right now, a young man, a young trader on his way home, we see it, film it, and report it in Igbo, to his own understanding. He doesn't have journalistic training to find out whether it is the fault of the driver or whether it was a mechanical fault or whether you understand. But his own is that, oh, a lorry just hit somebody at Nsuka Junction. Do you understand? So now there is the need for government in itself to invest deliberately in media literacy. What do I mean? That's why we have the National Orientation Agency to now begin to inculcate into the minds of digital savvy Nigerians that we like the fact that you are digital savvy, we like the fact that you are taking advantage of modern technology, but there are ways and means in which that technology has to be used to the betterment of the society in general and to the betterment of the country at large. So if we deliberately invest in that, you will see that the relationship between social media and mainstream media and the government will evolve over time. But the question is, who will build the cat? Who will be saddled with that responsibility? Because look, it's not just about government. Government has to play its part. The media itself has to play its part. And then in what I should call a joint venture, both the media and the government will now take the responsibility of helping the public to gradually graduate and evolve to that stage where they can take advantage of those digital tools positively rather than negatively.
All right, let's look at how some international organizations, can also help, in preserving press freedom. Let's look at it in Nigeria, not globally this time, in Nigeria. We've heard of cases where Amnesty International and different international organizations will react to certain happenings in Nigeria, and that somehow influenced the way the government, would have reacted to things. But so far, it still seems, regardless of these international organizations airing their opinion, it seems at the end of the day, what the government wants to do, they still do. But then again, let's get your thoughts on this.
Well, the international organizations like Amnesty International and their likes can only do so much. There is an extent to which they can push certain fronts and certain agendas. And that's why I'm very happy that across Nigeria, there are other civil society groups, homegrown civil society groups who have taken it upon themselves to align, so to say, with the media. I give you an example. Enough is Enough, for instance. I have been part of projects sponsored by Enough is Enough on a number of radio stations across Nigeria. I have been part of concerned professionals. I have been a part of a number of civil society groups, especially in South Nigeria. I remember at a point in time, I think it was under the administration of Governor Ayade of Cross River State, a particular journalist was held in detention for more than a year. But a particular NGO, in collaboration with one or two civil society groups, continued to fight for the release of that journalist until he was eventually released shortly before Ben Ayade left office. And why? Because the young man did a story about the governor and he was picked up by the DSS. At first, nobody knew where he was. And before we knew it, he was remanded into prison. You understand? And of course, the government will take, I said it when we started this conversation, that the government will take advantage of the paraphernalias of office and even the laws therein. I mean, the law of libel, the law of, slander and all of those things. Why? Of course, sadly, the judiciary that is supposed to be the last hope of the common man is sadly not the case. So the judiciary will always come with technical interpretations as to why the law will always go the way of government and not necessarily the way of the common man, as the case of the media may be concerned. So my joy is that now you have even the NBA. The NBA is getting very interested in situations of such manner and beginning to give journalists legal support, in court to be able to fight certain, and that's why till tomorrow I respect the likes of Femi Falana, SAN, who has continued from where the late Gani Fawemi left, So what we must understand is that the current makeup, as we see it in Nigeria, has made it that, yes, there are people who know what needs to be done, how it should be done, but lack that phrase, the political will and the political wherewithal to be able to help position the media in such a place that the media becomes a formidable force to consistently checkmate the government. And because the government knows this, that is why the government deliberately will continue to use the paraphernalia of office, the instrument of government and governance, to keep the media at bay.
All right. Thank you. Before I will let you go, what's your, shall I say, advice, suggestions to, the media regarding press freedom and also the government?
As I said, and I go back to the fact that media practitioners, media organizations need to invest in media literacy. You need to acquire the skills of critical thinking, data analysis, because of the shifting space of the digital media space. Understand that you must be students of the law as it relates to copyright, libels, slander, and all of those things. And also invest deliberately in digital tools that will help to fact check, you understand, and help to research. As I said, we are poor students of history. We tend to forget very easily. So the media must recognize that it is its primary responsibility to constantly orientate, reorientate, what's the word now? Impute and impact the minds of Nigerians so that we can move our great nation forward.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. John Nkamiang, for joining us this evening. It's been an amazing time. Dr. John is, of course, a media and strategic development and communications specialist doing justice to clamp down on the press. Thank you so much, Dr. John, for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure always. Thank you for the opportunity.
Save Nature TV, news in your pocket.